Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. How the far left plans to change America by using illegal immigrants. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo, and this is a Paul Revere alert. The New York Times actually did me a favor by implying I'm a racist and a white supremacist guy. The far left paper attacked me because I understand their true agenda, and has nothing to do with helping poor people. It has everything to do with amassing power and changing the political structure in America by using illegal immigrants. As we reported last night, the Times wants blanket amnesty for illegal aliens already in this country, and the paper wants their extended families to join them in the USA as well. That would swell the voting rolls by tens of millions. The vast majority of new voters joining the Democratic Party because that's where the entitlements are. On May 4th, 2007, the Times editorialized, quote, "Closing the door to families of migrants would be unjust and unworkable, and a mockery of the values that conservatives profess. It would only encourage illegality by forcing people to choose between their loved ones and the law." Now, it's very touching. The Times cares so much about illegality and the law when the paper has supported sanctuary city policies and lacks immigration enforcement, isn't it? This whole caring for the downtrodden deal is a ruse, a scam, a con. What the New York Times wants for the country is what has happened in California. 40 years ago, the Golden State was fertile ground for Republicans and conservatives. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Pete Wilson all prospered out there. In fact, in 1968, Nixon beat Humphrey 48-45 in California. Last November, Obama beat McCain 61-37, a huge landslide. In 1970, 9% of California's population was foreign-born. Now, it is an astounding 28%. And most of the new voters are Democrats. So the Dems control power in California. It is a virtual one-party state. It's 55 electoral votes, a lock for the Democrats. New York is almost a one-party state. That's 31 more electoral votes. Illinois, completely controlled by Democrats, another 21 electoral votes. Get the picture? If blanket amnesty is passed, the Democratic ranks in places like Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida will explode, putting our two-party system in jeopardy. And that is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, what the New York Times envisions. And guess who's also a big blanket amnesty guy? Hey there, George Soros. The far-left billionaire has donated big money to open border groups. And then there's the ACLU, actively working against many laws that constrain illegal immigration and opposing strict border enforcement. So let's add all of this up. The Times, Soros, the ACLU, quite a lineup. If these people succeed in getting blanket amnesty passed for illegals and their families living abroad, the political system in America will change forever. That's why the Times has branded me a racist, because I have unmasked them. They can't deny it, so they trot out the smear machine. A very troubling situation. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction to all this. Joining us from San Diego, Union Tribune and syndicated columnist Ruben Navarrgette, who often writes about immigration issues. So am I making any mistakes here, Mr. Navarrete?
Well, Bill, a couple things. First, you and I are probably in more agreement than I am with the New York Times editorial page on some issues. For instance, you and I both support this idea of continuing the deportation raids. That puts us at odds with the New York Times editorial page. They are, in fact, in many cases, an open border organ. But I think the point that they're trying to make here, and it was a very sloppily done editorial, it linked together about a dozen different individuals. I think they painted with a very broad brush. What they're concerned about is that there are people out there, and there have been since the beginnings of the country, who don't make the argument simply on amnesty grounds or on legal grounds, but rather the wrong kind of people are coming into the country grounds.
That's what they purport.
Say that about,
but to drag me into that kind of an argument, as you know, Mr. Navarrete, because you're an honest guy, is a lie. It's absurd. So if you want to make the argument there are people who are prejudiced against any foreigners coming here, you can make it. They don't have any power, those people. They have no voice. They're out there. You can make that argument all day long. But New York Times selected me for a reason. And the reason is that I'm the only one on the national scene, the only one on national television, that knows what they're up to here. So let's get to the big picture. You live in California. I've given you the stats. It is a completely different state now. It is totally controlled by Democrats. The only reason Schwarzenegger won is because he's the Terminator. Okay? That's it. Republicans are never again going to be a political force in the Golden State, the biggest state in the Union. That is
Right.
what the New York Times wants all over the country in the powerful states. You know them, right?
Well, there are reasons for that, because the Republican Party in California and around the country keeps shooting themselves in the foot over issues like immigration, abortion, gay marriage, and others. If the Republican Party just talked about tax cuts and limited government, it might go further. But the real reason we have so many illegal immigrants in California is because, and you know this, Bill, this is a very expensive state in which to live. Californians have figured out a secret way to get around that. They could hire nannies and housekeepers and gardeners on the open market, but instead that would cost them a lot of money. So instead they hire Mexicans because they're cheaper.
But you're playing small ball, Ruben. I know
No, it's
all
true,
this,
Bill.
and you're right. But the larger
Right.
picture is the fundamental change in the American political system, taking it from a two-party system to a one-party system.
Right.
That is what they're
Which
doing.
is bad for everybody. Absolutely. Bad for everybody. It's bad for the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats then, they think it's so easy to win elections, you get a whole series of mediocre Democratic candidates. So nobody is really served by a one-party system.
So are you agreeing with me that that is the end game for the New York Times? Are you?
I'm not saying that that was their design. They may just simply be riding that piggyback already. It's happening because of Obama and because Obama took hold in California. I don't think that George Soros and the New York Times have as much power as you give them credit for.
It's not about
I think
power.
they are tapping into something that's already happening.
It's not about, well, that may be so. The dynamic may be happening. But the desire of George Soros and the New York Times and the ACLU is to break the back of the Republican Party and the conservative traditional movement in America. The fastest way to break the back of the Republicans, the GOP, is to bring in 30 million new voters. The fastest way to do that is to have blanket amnesty, and then everybody's family comes as well.
Right.
Look, my people got off the boat from Ireland. They came legally in the 1840s and 50s. They signed up almost immediately with the Democratic Party in New York City.
Right.
Why? Because they gave them $10. That's why. And they said, our party cares about you. We're going to give you stuff. That's the tradition of the Democratic Party. Give entitlements to the underdog. So you know 3/4 of new voters are going to go Democrat, Ruben. I'm telling you, man, this is huge. This is the biggest thing, bigger than any other illegal immigrant, sanctuary city, exploitation. This fundamentally changes if it happens on Obama's watch. And as you rightly pointed out, it may. It may.
Bill, I think what you're talking about here is right in the sense that it may be that Republicans do have a case to make to Hispanics. Immigrants, and you picked the Irish as a good example, your ancestors came here illegally because they came here before 1924. You couldn't come illegally until after that. Same with my grandfather. But the end result is the GOP needs to make its case to Hispanics. It needs to win those votes, and it can't concede them.
But every American needs to know what's happening here in the big picture. Ruben, thanks very much as always. Next on The Rundown, Tom.